American boyfriend said he wouldn't marry me until I got my green card on my own because he feared I was using him as a visa mule even though I make significantly more than him. This account was a throwaway and I had forgotten to log in, but today I found a Chrome profile on my old laptop that was logged into this account. My previous posts have been removed and I have a lot of messages asking for updates. I am creating this post to consolidate the original post, plus 2 updates as well as provide a final update. I-29F moved to the US 7 years ago as a grad school student from Indonesia. I met my boyfriend 30 a few months after I moved and we've been together ever since. My boyfriend is a US citizen. After I graduated, we had a serious discussion about where our relationship was headed. I made it very clear that I wanted to eventually get married and have children. My BF echoed the sentiments. I remember asking him if he saw that happening with me because I didn't want to be in a relationship with no future. He told me he loved me and that we were definitely headed in that direction. As of last week, we've been dating for 7 years. We've occasionally talked about marriage, but we were both busy with our respective careers, so the timing didn't seem quite right. However, recently my company announced that there's a chance that my department's work will be outsourced. I'm on an H-1B visa, temporary worker, so this means that I need to start looking for a job ASAP if I want to continue staying in the US. The stakes are high with my visa situation. If I lose my job, I technically have only 60 days to find another position, or I'll have to leave the country. I've built my entire adult life here in the States, my apartment, my friends, my routines, my favorite coffee shop where the barista knows my order. Without asking, all of it would be gone. Not to mention the hassle of packing up 7 years worth of stuff. Last week during our anniversary dinner at this fancy Italian place we've been wanting to try, I brought this up. I asked him if he thought it was the right time to think about getting married, as that would also help with sorting out my visa issues. The moment I mentioned marriage and visa in the same sentence, his face changed. He looked like he was about to vomit, literally put down his fork mid-bite and turned pale. I waited for him to say something, but he just sat there silently. So I kept prodding him to tell me what was wrong. After the waiter refilled our water glasses for the 3rd time and the awkward silence became unbearable, he finally confessed that he wasn't planning on US getting married before I was able to get a green card, permanent resident in the US. I was incredibly confused because he'd never mentioned this before, not once in 7 years. His reason he didn't want to be used as a visa mule, his exact words by me. He said he wanted to make sure that I married him because I loved him and not because it was a ticket to get to stay in the US, which can only happen when I get a green card on my own. I sat there in shock. 7 years together and he thought I might be using him for papers. It took me a while to process what he said, and I asked him if he'd be okay to move to Indonesia with me if things didn't work out with my visa. No way, he said, immediately, not even taking a second to consider it. My life is here, so is mine. For 7 years, I didn't finish my meal. I grabbed my purse, threw some cash on the table, and walked out. He called my name across the restaurant, but I kept walking. I spent the night at my coworker's place because I couldn't face him. I am still in disbelief. I started dating him because he was the kindest, most thoughtful, and generous man I'd met. I now feel like I wasted 7 years. While the visa issues are certainly a problem, I did not date him with the intention of making him my safety net. I cannot believe that even after nearly a decade together, he doesn't know what kind of person I am. I feel like this relationship is possibly over and it hurts. It hurts so much. Update 1. A few days back, I made a post about how my BF of 7 years didn't want to marry me because I was an immigrant on an H-1B and he didn't want to be a visa mule. I got a lot of wonderful comments and DMs. A few trolls too, but that's expected. From Reddit, haha, because the thread got locked and the post was subsequently removed because I have a low karma account. I was unable to respond to anyone I'm posting this update to do that, plus add in some more things that have transpired since addressing some of the stuff in the comments. I've been on an H-1B visa for a bit more than 2 years. Now I was on STEM OPT for about 3 years. After grad school, I had terrible luck with the H-1B lottery and I got one in the last round. I was eligible to apply. And for those unfamiliar with the US immigration system, it's basically a game of chance whether you get to stay in the country or not. Super fun. Getting PR permanent residency in the US is not easy. I know people who've been here for 15 plus years who are still waiting for their PR. The backlog for certain countries is ridiculous, and with my country of origin, I'm looking at a wait time that could stretch over a decade. For those of you who DM me calling me a gold digger, you guys made me ill. I am aware of the legalities around sponsoring a spouse for a PR, including the financial aspect. It shouldn't have been a problem for the following reasons. I'm a STEM major who recently shifted into management. I work for a large company and I do quite well for myself. My boyfriend is a teacher at a local high school and our incomes are not comparable. He earns around till $160,000. I earn close to till $300K. We've been living together for 6 years in a 2-bedroom apartment near downtown. We have a shared account to pay for expenses like rent and utilities that we both deposit percentage of our salary into. The rest of our money goes into our own private accounts and we don't manage each other's money. He buys his video games. I buy my overpriced skincare. No questions asked because I'm pretty frugal growing up without much. Does that to you? I've saved up quite a bit of money in the form of savings plus investments. If my boyfriend was worried about the legality of sponsoring me financially for 10 plus years, I would have happily discussed moving the money around. I was even considering buying a house so we could have made that a joint ownership thing. The point is we could have figured it out. I haven't relied on him financially ever, and I didn't intend on doing that in the future. I might not have considered everything, but you have to note that I thought about the marriage for visa thing very recently, only when the threat of possibly having to leave loomed over me. This isn't something I thought about in detail at all regarding my situation back home in Indonesia. I come from a very religious and conservative family and had a horrible childhood. My family doesn't support my career choices. I cut contact with my family when I moved to the US, so they are not in the picture at all. There's no safety net waiting for me. Back there, just judgment and expectations I have no intention of meeting. I was on great terms with BFs. Family, they love me as mom would. Always send me care packages with homemade cookies and handwritten notes. She'd even started teaching me her secret family recipes over FaceTime. His dad would call me to get my opinion on tech stuff, proudly introducing me as the smart one in the family to his buddies. His sister and I would go shopping together whenever I visited, and she'd confide in me about her relationship problems. As grandparents had even started calling me their bonus granddaughter at family gatherings. Holiday dinners at their house were warm and welcoming, so different from the tense formal affairs I grew up with. They felt more like family than my own ever did, which made the situation even more painful. Now for the actual update. He is now my ex-boyfriend. I took a few days to collect myself and then reached out to him wanting to talk. He agreed to meet at a neutral location. It turns out that he has been insecure about earning less than I did for a while. Apparently his friends have been poking fun at our relationship, calling me the sugar mommy because I take care of most of the expenses. He never told me this until now. He apparently didn't feel like an equal because our pay differs so much and started feeling that I was only with him as a quick way to get a PR. Here I was speechless. I couldn't believe that his friends gaslight him into doubting our relationship. These were the same guys who'd come over for game nights, eat the food I cooked, drink the beer I bought, and then turn around and make him feel like about our relationship. What kind of friends do that? I reminded him how he had supported me when I was in grad school, like getting me groceries when I had little money to spare, allowing me to stay with him rent-free in my last year of grad school to help me minimize expenses so I didn't have to take out a loan, letting me use his car. When I was attending interviews, I told him that he did them because he loved me and me taking on the majority of household expenses since I started working is my way of paying him back for all the things he did for me back then. He said that he gets what I'm saying, but also that he didn't expect me to start earning more than him straight off the bat. Like, what did he expect that I'd get a STEM degree from a top university and then deliberately take a low-paying job to protect his ego? I asked if there was any chance he'd consider going to couples therapy like some of you had suggested, and he declined because he didn't think he was being unreasonable. He said that he wanted to be the provider in a relationship and that he didn't feel like one in ours, so there's no going back from this unless I quit my job and found another that paid substantially less, which isn't going to happen, not in this economy, not with the life I've worked so hard to build. Well, long story short, we broke up. His family is in disbelief. They were hoping that he would propose soon. His mom had even shown me family heirlooms that could be mine someday. I moved into an Airbnb for now, a small studio downtown that costs way too much, but it's temporary until I figure things out. The apartment feels strange without him. I keep turning around expecting to see him on the couch playing his games or in the kitchen making his signature scrambled eggs, but instead there's just empty space at it. A little bit of good news to end this update: with my company offer me a similar role in a different department. However, this is based out of France and there's a small decrease in pay. I've always dreamed about living in Europe. Who hasn't? And I've accepted this offer. I've signed the relocation agreement and I'll move there in the next 8 to 12 weeks. The relocation process has already begun. I'm selling most of my furniture on Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist. I've started taking French lessons online, stumbling through basic phrases and pronunciation. My company is arranging temporary housing for me until I can find my own place. I've been researching neighborhoods in Paris, trying to figure out which arrondissement might suit me best. I know nothing about French apartment hunting, rental laws, or what makes a good location, but I guess I'll figure it out. That's the story of my life, figuring things out as I go. I'm getting out of this country that never fully wanted me anyway, despite everything I contributed 7 years of paying taxes, creating value, making friends, all that, and I'm still considered an outsider. My presence here contingent on paperwork and bureaucracy. TL Dar boyfriend was insecure about earning less than me. Boyfriend has now become ex-boyfriend. Company offered a new job in France, leaving US in 2 to 3 months to start a new life in France. Edit replied to a few comments people took apart my update to point out a discrepancy. I first said I haven't relied on him financially ever, and later I reminded him how he had supported me when I was in grad school, like getting me groceries when I had little money to spare, allowing me to stay with him rent-free in my last year grad school to help me minimize expenses so I didn't have to take out a loan, letting me use his car when I was attending interviews. I'm sorry for wording my feelings poorly, causing this confusion. I never asked or expected my ex to help me buy groceries or house me. I moved to the US to pursue a tech MBA from a top 20 school and had scholarships and student loans that were going to help me cover the cost tuition plus living expenses. So at no point did I need him to help me. I knew I was going to have a financially difficult time for 2 years, and I was prepared for this. My ex, however, did not like that I was eating cold sandwiches and instant ramen most of the time and would bring me some groceries, vegetables, frozen food, and the like because he wanted to make sure I was eating well. He was also the one who proposed the idea of me moving in with him because he wanted us to live together and also thought it would lower my stress levels. He was an extremely kind, considerate, and generous man, and it was one of the reasons I fell in love With him, I am extremely grateful for his support, but I was relying on a had. He not done any of the above I would have managed. I always do update, too. I'm back with an update after about a year of moving to France. My previous posts are on my profile if you guys want to check them out. I absolutely love it here. The language barrier is very real. My French was limited to bonjour and merci when I arrived, but I'm taking classes. And the people around me have been incredibly helpful. The first few months were rough. Everything from setting up a bank account to figuring out the public transportation system was a challenge. I live in Paris in a small but charming apartment in the 11th arrondissement. My first week here, I got completely lost trying to navigate the metro system. I ended up wandering around for hours before a kind older woman noticed my confused face and helped me find my way back. I couldn't understand half of what she was saying, but she drew me a little map on a napkin and pointed me in the right direction. The French bureaucracy is no joke. It took 3 visits to the bank to open an account because I was missing different pieces of paperwork. Each time the electricity company sent me bills in rapid French that I had to translate with Google Translate. Figuring out how to pay rent through a wire transfer instead of check took an entire afternoon and lots of gesturing at the bank, but I've gotten the hang of most things now. I can order at restaurants without the waiter immediately switching to English progress, and I've memorized my metro routes. I've even made friends with the local baker who now saved me a pain shaka if I'm running late on my morning coffee run. I spent the last year experiencing all the good things Europe offers. I've visited multiple cities in France, Netherlands, Belgium, Spain, Portugal, Switzerland, Denmark, Germany, and Luxembourg. I cannot believe how gorgeous all of these places are, and the more time I spend here, the more I think about how fortunate I am to be able to experience this. I'm soon traveling to Italy, and I'm excited about everything. The food here is incredible. I've gained about 10 pounds from all the bread, cheese, and wine, but it's been worth every calorie. My coworkers regularly bring homemade treats to the office, and there's a bakery down the street from my apartment that makes croissants that would make you weep. My work-life balance is also incredible. I was frequently putting in 10 to 12-hour work days in the US, and I can count on one hand the number of times I've had to work more than 8 hours a day here. I love the emphasis on personal time, and I cannot fathom going back to the way it was before. When I log off at 5 p.m., I'm truly done for the day. No emails, no calls, no expectations to be available 24/7. I actually have time to cook proper meals and go for walks in the evening. I haven't had the courage to get back into dating yet. My experience with the ex has left a really bad taste in my mouth, even though immigration here is a lot easier than in the US and is not really one of my worries. The thought of things falling apart after putting in a significant amount of time and effort scares me. I've gone on a few casual coffee dates, but nothing serious. I'm taking my time. My apartment here is small but charming, with a little balcony where I've set up some plants and a small table. I spend my weekends exploring new neighborhoods, trying new restaurants, and occasionally joining expat meetups to make friends. Building a social circle from scratch is hard, but I'm getting there. My ex reached out to me a few months after I moved. He faced a lot of backlash from his family after we broke up, and he wanted to discuss reconciliation because he realized the error of his ways. I told him exactly how he made me feel and that I could no longer trust him. I had decided to move on and advise him to do the same. He's had to downgrade his lifestyle as he could no longer afford to live the same way we did, and I could tell that it made him unhappy. He had to move to a smaller apartment in a less convenient location and give up some of the luxuries we'd enjoyed together. Not going to lie, I did feel a pang of guilt and sadness after our conversation, but it is what it is. I got a bunch of DMs asking me about what I do. I have an undergrad in comp science, and after a year of working, I decided to pursue an MBA. I was fortunate enough to get into one of the top 20 schools with a scholarship that reduced my tuition by about 30%. I got into tech consulting initially and then switched to product management after a couple of years. Hashtag TL. DR Life's Good Ex's chapter is closed. Haven't started dating yet. Need to find the courage to get back into it. Final update. I now live in the Netherlands. Switched over to another company last year. It's cold and wet most of the year, but this summer was glorious and at times hot enough to remind me of home. The move from France to the Netherlands was surprisingly complicated. Different paperwork, different systems, different bureaucracies to navigate. I spent weeks gathering documents, getting them translated, and standing in various government office lines. The Dutch immigration system wanted proof of everything. My birth certificate translated into Dutch by a certified translator. My new company offered a relocation package, but the person handling my case quit halfway through, so I had to start the process over with someone new who had no idea what had already been done. I spent countless hours on the phone being transferred from department to department explaining my situation over and over. When I finally arrived, it was pouring rain. Welcome to the Netherlands, I guess, but the company helped with most of it, and I'm settled now in a small but modern apartment in Amsterdam in the Jordaan neighborhood. It's a third-floor walk up in a narrow building typical of Amsterdam with those huge windows and a tiny balcony overlooking a quiet street. The stairs are so steep there, practically a ladder. Moving my furniture up was a nightmare that involved 3 guys, lots of rope, and hoisting things through the window. The canals are beautiful, especially in the early morning when the city is still quiet and the water looks like glass. I bought a bicycle, apparently mandatory for living here, and I'm slowly getting used to the traffic rules and the terror tram tracks that can catch your wheels. I've already had one minor crash into a parked car when I was trying to avoid a tourist who stepped into the bike lane without looking. My knee still has the bruise. Work keeps me busy. The new company has a different culture, more direct and less hierarchical than what I Was used to it, took some adjusting, but I appreciate the straightforwardness now. There's less political maneuvering and more focus on getting things done. I went through therapy for a few months. I must admit that I was not fully committed to. If the therapist was nice enough, but I found myself checking my watch throughout our sessions, but talking slash venting helps a lot, that and distance. And time has definitely helped me heal. It's a bit hard making friends in the Netherlands. Most people seem to want to stick to their existing social circles. I have made a few friends through the expat community, but these friendships need more time and effort to become something worthwhile. We meet for drinks occasionally or go to expat events together, but it's not the same as having those deep, comfortable friendships that come from years of knowing someone. I've started taking Dutch classes, though most locals switch to English the moment they hear my accent. It's a practical country. In that way, why struggle through broken Dutch when we can just speak English? But I keep trying, mostly when ordering at cafes or buying groceries. I'm trying to date now, sign up on a bunch of apps. Tinder, Bumble, Hinge, and this Dutch one called Inner Circle that seems popular. Here, haven't really had a lot of success so far, but I'll keep putting myself out there. It's strange navigating dating in a different culture with different expectations and norms. The Dutch dating scene is interesting. People are incredibly direct here. One guy messaged me, "You're attractive, let's meet for a drink," is his first message. No small talk, no questions about my interests. Another told me within 5 minutes of our first date that he wasn't looking for anything serious and just wanted to clarify that up front. At least they're honest. I guess I've had a few nice dates, but nothing that really clicked yet. One guy asked me within 10 minutes if I was just looking for a European to marry for citizenship. I walked out of that date, immediately leaving him with the full bill for the drinks we'd ordered. Another spent the entire evening talking about his ex who'd moved back to Germany. A third seemed promising until he mentioned he was technically still married but working on the divorce paperwork. There was one Dutch guy I went on 3 dates with. He was tall like everyone here, worked in finance, and had a nice smile, but on the third date he took me to meet his parents without warning me beforehand. Apparently that's not unusual here, but I was completely unprepared and showed up in jeans and a casual sweater to what turned out to be a formal family dinner. His mother asked me about my intentions with her son and whether I wanted children soon. I haven't returned his calls since. Dating as an expat adds another layer of complexity. There's always the question of how long I'll stay here, whether a relationship could survive if I move again, if cultural differences will become a problem. Plus, I'm approaching my mid-30s now, which apparently makes me old in dating app terms. The algorithm probably isn't doing me any favors. I still miss my ex sometimes, especially on days when I'm unwell, because it reminds me of how he used to take care of me and make me congee rice porridge. I miss being cared for. And no, I haven't reached out. That chapter is truly done. I saw on social media that he's dating someone new. I closed the tab as soon as I saw it. No need to torture myself. I got a cat. She's a very loud girl who wakes me up at 5 o'clock a.m. demanding breakfast. I named her Kopi, which means coffee in Indonesian. She's completely black except for a small white patch on her chest that looks like someone spilled a drop of milk on her. She follows me around the apartment and sleeps on my laptop whenever I'm trying to work. Life is kind of good, I guess. I need more friends. XD signing off.